During an Oval Office meeting with far-right Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Donald Trump fielded questions from reporters, but became visibly upset when some asked perfectly reasonable questions about Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell and Trump's ongoing issues with him, as well as the state of the economy, which has been struggling under Trump's economic mismanagement. He seemed to unravel in real time as the pressure mounted. But before we dive into all of that, if you enjoy this video and want to support the channel, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the alert bell before leaving. Now, let's get into the key moments from the Oval Office meeting, where they discussed Jerome Powell, the economy, the Supreme Court, and the Trump administration's relationship with the nation's highest court. But first, let's start with Trump losing his temper when a reporter simply quoted his own words and asked him to clarify.
Mr. President, you did say that you are confident these deals will be done, but you also said that you're in no rush. Americans are seeing prices rise. They're seeing it on their bills. How long can they expect that pain to last?
So they've already seen it get much better. Because if you were truthful, which you're not, I know you very well, you have gasoline that hit $1.98 yesterday in a couple of states. You have gasoline's way down. The price of oil has dropped substantially. The price of groceries are substantially down. The price of eggs. When I came in, they hit me with eggs. I just got there. I was here for 1 week, and they started screaming at me, eggs have gone through the roof. I said, I just got here. I was there for 7 days, and I hear that eggs have gone through the roof before I got there. And they were screaming at me, the press, the fake news like you're fake.
So once again, he's not handling things well, getting very upset over a perfectly reasonable question. A reporter pointed out that his own statements contradicted each other. You've said A and you've said B, and they don't seem to align. What do you say to Americans, your constituents, who are suffering because of your own actions? But Trump just can't keep his cool. Let's break this down. First, oil prices are dropping globally due to fears of a recession, which is not a win for Trump. Second, grocery prices are still high in the US. And third, egg prices, which surged under Trump, continue to rise, especially around Easter. So many of the things Trump claimed to be true are either false or lacking important context. He can't take credit for lowering oil prices unless he also wants to claim responsibility for the potential recession he helped create. On top of that, Trump tries to deflect by saying he was only in office for a few days when egg prices spiked. But during the campaign, he repeatedly promised voters that on day one, he would end inflation, lower energy costs, grocery prices, and more. He set those expectations himself. Yet now, he's angry when people hold him accountable for those promises. Why is he so upset when his own words are quoted back to him? It's clear he doesn't like it when his own statements come back to haunt him. And it's not just about his broken promises. Trump's also getting defensive when reporters bring up Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell.
On Jerome Powell, you said that the termination of Jerome Powell cannot come fast enough. He says he won't leave, even if you ask him to.
Oh, he'll leave. If I ask him to, he'll be out of there. But
do you believe
I don't think he's. I don't think he's doing the job. He's too late. Always too late. A little slow, and I'm not happy with him. I let him know it, and if I want him out, he'll be out of there real fast. Believe me.
So
Yeah,
go
ahead, please. Question.
Are you trying to remove him, Mr. President?
Yeah, question.
Mr. President, yesterday Judge Boasberg...
So, Trump isn't having it with another question. He's clearly triggered by the idea that anyone could challenge his authority. The reporter dared to suggest that he might not be able to do whatever he wants, especially when it comes to firing Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. Trump's response, if he wants Powell gone, he'll be out. Now, this ties into a larger discussion about the Federal Reserve, which, while appointed by the president, operates with a certain level of independence. The chair of the Federal Reserve holds significant influence over the economy, arguably second only to the president himself, even more so than the Treasury Secretary. While the president does have the power to appoint the chair, they serve a fixed term and can only be removed for cause, such as incompetence or negligence, not simply because a president disagrees with their policies. Jerome Powell, in this case, is confident in his position. He's made it clear that if Trump were to ask him to leave, Powell wouldn't comply unless Trump could show a legitimate cause for dismissal. Powell's stance is that his decisions are made with the country's best financial interests in mind, not based on what's politically convenient for Trump. But Trump doesn't want to hear that. He wants unquestioned loyalty. His broader agenda, especially in his Project 2025 plan, aims to consolidate power over so-called independent agencies like the Federal Reserve, at least when it benefits Republicans. Under a Democratic president, however, they'd want these agencies to remain as independent as possible. So, yeah, Trump's definitely on the defensive here. Let's move on to another clip, though, where we'll dive into the relationship between Donald Trump and the U.S. Supreme Court.
Judge Boasberg, in a case against your administration, said the Constitution does not tolerate willful disobedience of judicial orders. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, you're going to have to speak to the lawyers. We have great lawyers. I can tell you this, we're doing a fantastic job of getting criminals out of this country who Biden allowed into the country. Hundreds of thousands of criminals, murderers and drug dealers. And I was elected because of the fact, I would say maybe that was the number one factor, for a lot of reasons, the economy, a lot of things. But one of the primary reasons I was elected is because I said, I'm going to get the criminals that he allowed to come into our country so stupidly through open borders. I'm going to get them out.
So, there are a few key points here. First, it's clear that there were no open borders under President Biden. In fact, Biden deported more people than Donald Trump did on a per capita basis. Secondly, there were record-breaking levels of interdictions and seizures at the southern border, which wouldn't have been the case if the border were truly open. If it were wide open, there wouldn't be any arrests or interceptions, because people could just walk in freely. So, the claim of open borders is a total contradiction. Additionally, while there are indeed undocumented migrants in the U.S. who have committed crimes over the years, this has been a problem for decades under multiple administrations, including Trump's. The idea that President Biden has somehow let hundreds of thousands of undocumented migrant criminals into the country is completely false. But again, that's typical of Trump's narrative. Then, there's the matter of the constitutional limits on executive power. Trump can't even bring himself to admit that the Constitution doesn't allow the president to act in contempt of court. He can't afford to acknowledge that, politically speaking. He has to maintain the illusion that he's always in the right and above the law. This mindset continues even in his responses to follow-up questions, particularly when it comes to complying with court orders.
If the court holds you in contempt, will you take steps to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States and put him in front of a judge?
Well, I'm not involved in it. I'm going to respond by saying you'll have to speak to the lawyers, the DOJ. I've heard many things about him, and we'll have to find out what the truth is. But I will say this, we were inundated by millions of people, many millions of people during the Biden administration. They say 21 million. And a big percentage of those are criminals, serious criminals. I'm not saying just criminals because they came into the border illegally. I'm saying they're criminals at the highest level, murderers. Many of those people murdered more than one person, and they're on the loose. And I was elected to get rid of those criminals, to get them out of our country, or to put them away, but to get them out of our country. And I don't see how judges can take that authority away from a president. We've done it.
What do you mean, what the truth is? I thought you believed Kilar Bayo Garcia was a dangerous MS-13 gang member, a hardened criminal. I thought you had solid evidence to back that up. Spoiler alert, they don't. There's no evidence proving he's an MS-13 member or a hardened criminal. If they had anything to substantiate that claim, they'd present it. But instead, they're choosing not to, all while refusing to back down because they've tied their egos to this narrative. It's also likely a test for them, seeing how far they can push the envelope. Who knows? Maybe one day, a natural-born U.S. citizen could also end up in an El Salvadoran prison just because they don't agree with the politics of those in power. But the real issue here is simple. If you're held in contempt of court, you should comply with the court's orders. The politically savvy, honest, and constitutionally correct answer would be yes. But Trump won't give that answer. He does what he always does. I'm not involved. I don't know anything about it. He's the president of the United States, which means when things go wrong in the government, the responsibility falls on him. But that's the pattern. Now, here's the irony in what Trump and his supporters in Project 2025 want. They want to give the president complete, unchecked authority over the federal government, allowing him to fire anyone at will and control everything. But at the same time, they want to empower a president who claims he has no clue or involvement whenever something goes wrong. They want all the power, but none of the accountability. That's how you can tell it's an unprincipled, authoritarian movement. It's all about power, not service or responsibility. And that's exactly why they shouldn't be trusted with the power they're seeking.
President, if the court holds you in contempt, will you take steps to return Kilmar Abrego Garcia to the United States and put him in front of a judge?
Well, I'm not involved in it. I'm going to respond by saying you'll have to speak to the lawyers, the DOJ. I've heard many things about him, and we'll have to find out what the truth is. But I will say this, we were inundated by millions of people, many millions of people during the Biden administration. They say 21 million. And a big percentage of those are criminals, serious criminals. I'm not saying just criminals because they came into the border illegally. I'm saying they're criminals at the highest level, murderers. Many of those people murdered more than one person, and they're on the loose. And I was elected to get rid of those criminals, to get them out of our country, or to put them away, but to get them out of our country. And I don't see how judges can take that authority away from a president. We've done